I guess you could say Samsung has a bit of a welcome problem. Better than expected demand for its new Galaxy Note 7 has resulted in a global supply constraint. The South Korean company said it was trying to boost production in order to make the phones available, quote unquote, as early as possible. So joining us now to discuss this is Dan Costa. He's editor-in-chief over at PCMag.com. And Dan, I guess the problem of strong demand and supply constraints can be seen as good as well as bad, right? What are your thoughts on how this will impact Samsung's overall business and the launch of this new particular phablet, I call it?
Yeah, phablet is exactly the right word. It's that blend between a supersized phone and a mini tablet. It's a great problem for Samsung to have. I mean, they've got what they have right now is another hit phone. The Galaxy Note 7 is a huge success internationally across multiple markets. They've got great pre-orders, bigger than expected, and they're going to have to slow the rollout in some European markets. So that's, I think this is a problem they can overcome, but it points to this larger trend in the market, which is that Samsung has been taking market share away from Apple. They've been absolutely annihilating other Android manufacturers across the globe, and they're doing it by they winnowed their line down. They've got a couple of hero phones, and they're doing very, very well. And the latest Note is just the latest example of that.
All right, so you're saying that Samsung has had some success bringing some marginal market share gains against Apple. That means the iron is quote unquote hot right now, right? Do you think that Samsung misses out on potential sales because of a shortage like this? Will it benefit other phone makers like Apple? We know the iPhone 7's coming out possibly in just a few weeks. What's the give and take there?
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of competition from other Android manufacturers, at least definitely in the US. In the US, Apple and Samsung pretty much have the market sewn up. They have combined like 90% of the standard rate cell phone subscribers in the country. So they really own the market. Nobody's going to switch to another brand here. There is competition on the low end for entry-level devices. But then the real question is, what's going to happen in a couple of weeks when Apple launches their latest iPhone? It looks like it's going to happen in the first or second week of September. It's definitely going to happen by the end of September. That's going to be a huge push for Apple. We know that the iPhone 6 was a little bit slow and a little bit of a disappointment, and sales are trailing off. They're going to have a hit phone in another 2 weeks too. So it really resets the clock for all these vendors.
All right, so let's take a lot of those themes you just mentioned and wrap them up into an outlook for Samsung, profits, their earnings momentum, the sales momentum, everything else for the second half of the year. What does it look like given all of that multitude of variables that you just mentioned?
I think Samsung's got time to turn this around by the end of the year, to ramp up production, to get into these new markets. They've got a ton of buzz on the products themselves. And also, I don't think there's a lot of people that were going to switch from Samsung to Apple or Apple to Samsung. People are pretty entrenched in their platforms right now. So this is all gravy. I mean, if you look at the analyst estimates, they're going to sell a lot more Galaxy Note 7s than they had originally planned, regardless of their supply problems. So that's good news for Samsung.
Dan, really quickly, there's been mention of a term called peak smartphone over the course of the past few months. People saying that maybe the smartphone market is oversaturated. Everyone who wants one has one, that sort of thing. What's the state of the smartphone business right now?
I think you do look at it, and people are going to see we're going to see what Apple comes out with in a couple of weeks, but we're not anticipating anything revolutionary. We're looking at incremental upgrades, and I think if you look at people who are watching the market, we don't know what more we want these devices to do. They already do so much. People are holding on to them for 2 years, maybe more. You're looking at the same thing that happened in the PC industry, where we went from upgrading our PCs every 2 years to suddenly every 3, every 4, every 5. That same thing could wind up happening in the smartphone market.
All right, so we'll see if that mobile hardware picks up some steam going to the second half of the year and what that means for guys like Samsung and Apple. Dan Costa, thank you so much for joining us. That's Dan Costa. He's editor-in-chief over at PCMag.com. And thanks for watching. I'm Dominic Chu. Have a great day.